Hello, my name is Allevato, and I will be presenting our work on learning labeled robot affordance models using simulations and crowdsourcing. Our research is motivated by the problem of deploying learning robots into human-centered environments, such as kitchens or hospitals. In the real world, a robot will not always have access to expert input and instead must rely on feedback from naive humans to learn how to behave. And to understand instructions, a robot will need to know how humans use natural language to describe tasks or skills. The affordance model is a commonly used method to describe a robot's possible interactions with its environment, but its feature spaces of objects, actions, and effects are usually quantitative and robot-centric. Sometimes researchers give affordances labels, such as openable and pushable, but they are often assigned arbitrarily and post hoc. In this work, we connect natural language labels to a robot-centric affordance model using crowdsourced data from naive users. We do this via the following three contributions. First, we define a new labeled affordance model formulation. Second, we collect label data about this model using both simulations and crowdsourcing. And third, we use that data to learn labeling functions, showing that label meaning and relationships can be learned from the aggregate data. As I mentioned earlier, the affordance model is inherently robot-centric. The feature spaces of objects, actions, and effects are quantitative and won't make intuitive sense for a non-expert human. Labels, on the other hand, are human-centric. Therefore, we propose a labeled affordance model, where different labels describe different subsets of the overall affordance feature space. A couple of previous works have proposed this idea, but they have not studied the relationship between affordances and their labels in depth. In particular, it's unclear which parts of the affordance are the most closely correlated with the choice of label. It's also unclear how well defined particular labels are, especially from the viewpoint of naive users with almost no experience communicating with robots. We define a generalized affordance model that uses a discrete object class, simple linear robot actions, and the measured pose change to define each affordance. The action and effect spaces are continuous, and random sampling from the action space helps prevent biasing the system towards exhibiting particular affordances. The procedure for building the model is as follows. First, we sample an affordance from the object and action spaces. Then, we play back the affordance while measuring the effect. Next, we request labels from naive humans in crowdsourced settings. And finally, we fit support vector machines to the dataset of collected labels. We began with a pilot study to test the approach as well as the feasibility of collecting data from naive users in the wild. Passers-by in an academic building would watch our robot perform an affordance on an object, and then would provide a label by filling in the blank on a nearby computer. Unfortunately, this approach was too slow, and we had no way to constrain participant behavior, which resulted in low-quality data. However, it did provide a set of commonly used labels such as push, knock over, and rotate. We used the results from the in-person pilot to conduct a larger-scale study on Amazon Mechanical Turk using rendered videos of robot simulations. We showed each participant a video like this one and asked them to select which of the labels from the pilot study correctly described that video. We did this over hundreds of objects and actions sampled from our selected feature spaces. We recorded the effect and the human-provided labels for each simulated affordance tested. To learn a labeling function for these affordances, we trained support vector machines over both the action and effect data for each label and analyzed their performance. We found that effect data in particular gave a much stronger predictive signal for whether or not a human would provide a particular label. Another interesting feature of the collected label data is that many labels tended to occur together. We use this fact to automatically develop label hierarchies by using the conditional probability between two labels as a measure of the similarity between them. Using our approach, the conditional probability determines whether labels are equivalent, have a parent-child relationship, or are unrelated. And when we apply these rules to the crowdsourced label data, we can produce a feasible label hierarchy. For example, in this case, knock over is a type of tip, which is a type of touch. We can also vary the probability threshold for forming relationships to make the model more fine-grained or less sensitive to noise. Taken together, our results point towards a common understanding of affordances, and using a labeled model can enable human-robot communication about those affordances. Using crowdsourced data allows us to more easily learn a generalized model that is grounded by the perception of multiple humans. And although it was not originally a goal of the paper, the ability to develop affordance models using crowdsourcing and simulation is especially relevant in an era of social distancing and stay-at-home orders. I want to thank my co-authors and the funding organizations that made this work possible, and I look forward to answering your questions on this work. Thank you.